News and new releases is really what we should be calling this video, because a lot of new games post Gen Con pre-Essen have come onto my radar. Things that may have slid under the radar, things that were sort of pseudo promoted by Board Game Geek, and a little bit of everything else along the way. Let's just start with the thing that has everyone talking, the shut up and sit down direct situation. And I'm not going to cover all the games that they mentioned on there, but, for the sake of tooting my own horn, I will just a little bit, because I feel like as a small channel, I sometimes get poo-pooed as this hype agent. No, I'm looking at what games I am most interested in. Games that I think that you should maybe have on your radar, whatever your span. I mean, that was the whole video for Gen Con. It wasn't what games are going to bring the most hype. It was what games are actually going to be freaking sweet 6 months or a year from now. Or what games have I had on my radar on the previous news videos, right? What games did Shut Up and Sit Down cover? The Game Makers. Tag Team. Oh, I've heard of those before. Then, Naishi. That one. Satchel Quest. Oh, that was on my list, right? Like, I had a publisher reach out to me and say, hey, how did you actually make that list? And I said, I scrolled through all of the Board Game Geek listings for Gen Con and just picked them out that way. And that's what you need to do when you're looking out for stuff in this regard. Maybe I'm not just totally taking crazy pills here. So that aside, what else is on your radar? Now that you know that I am, Nostradamus, Liege, what should you have your eye on upcoming as well? And that's what we're talking about. Well, first up, I guess let's stay with that, because this is straight up from the Shut Up and Sit Down playbook with their combined efforts with Play to Z, which reminds me I owe them an email like 4 months overdue. Dogs of War. Dogs of War has their GameFound preview page up. 3 to 5 player area control, one that was, frankly speaking, underperforming on the CMON scale of FOMO-ness, and really didn't get the acclaim until probably a year or two after it delivered. All of a sudden, people wanting the extras for a game that was out of print, out of stock, out of availability from the get-go. And I don't really know, right? This is not a game that I am completely familiar with. I know Shut Up and Sit Down loved it. I remember the review kind of helped skyrocket it in that way. It's a shifting allegiance game, new armies, tactics, and gold after skirmish by skirmish round. Play to Z has a couple other ones, including the Animal Rescue Team, that's going to be on my Essen list when I do that next month in anticipation for Essen. Speaking of that, in case you're wondering where things stand with Essen, just talking about my Gen Con video, right now, I may have to curate my Essen video because I have literally 26 games on my Essen list right now, over a month in advance of Essen at the time of me filming this. That's how much quality I think you could be seeing come out between now and the end of the year. Now, again, I really hate the Essen side of things in a different way, though, at the same time, because a fair number of the Essen releases aren't actual true releases, whatever side of the pond you may be on, because invariably we see games like from years past in 2023, Veil of Eternity and Evenfall, that never make their way over until the next year. And then you see people that end up with, these 50 copies on Board Game Geek proclaiming it the best game of the year that you can't get for another 8 to 10 months. And it happens on both sides, truth be told, because there will probably be a few of these Essen releases that won't get wide European distribution, but will get somehow North American distribution. But Tag Team is one of those that I mentioned as well that is super, super high on my list of things to watch in that way. Then, the other big news that again, going to toot my own horn here. Well, I guess it's pretty obvious to everyone, though, so it's really just me, I'm a dummy, and I realized it, in that sense, that Office Dog is bringing us the Two Towers trick-taking game, because when you title the first game The Fellowship of the Ring trick-taking game, well, you're gonna have a trilogy, right? Show me what you got with this one. Apparently they're gonna be doing something completely different, unique with the Trump in this way, and yes, I understand that it is not going to be probably terribly altogether wonderfully, absolutely zero Venn diagram overlap in terms of, differences of the two games. But it's the progression through the series. It's the progression through the books in those nuanced ways so that you can do that. And Frodo's obviously not going to be the main character in this differently than it was in the first game. Is it on my wish list? Hell yes. Because it's a fantastic game, and we have to talk about it because it's freaking fantastic. And I'm going to give you another huge, massive IP that I think could fly under the radar because it's ultimately probably going to be too light for a lot of people, but this one has a highly underappreciated, super Amerithrash vibe to me that sort of snuck out at the tail end of Gen Con, and this is Star Wars, right? Chris, how could a Star Wars game fly under the radar? It's got a 1 weight rating. It's a remake of Sonic Super Teams, which has a 6.6 rating, but it's Star Wars Super Teams. Okay, I'm a fanboy. I'm a fanboy. But it's a track where you just play cards. Chris, that sounds stupid. How many good track games, racing games, have we seen over the last 2 years? It's going to be a lot lighter than those, but movement cards, you just got to get your starship across the line, but you may even be able to play, if you have enough friends, which sometimes I do, sometimes I don't, 2 versus 2 as well, by slowing down your opponents, putting out obstacles, and being able to clear certain areas completely, otherwise you don't clear them whatsoever. And so, can you lead your team of X-Wing Millennium Falcon, Star Destroyer Death Star, right? Star Destroyer Death Star, I'm gonna outrace you. TIE Fighter, Advanced TIE Fighter, or Jedi Starfighter and Tantive 4 to victory. And it's got this big impressive map. And I just think it looks like something completely Wiz Wars-esque with a Star Wars race vibe. And so if you can upgrade whatever Sonic Super Team Racer thingy was in the first place with the Star Wars IP, I think it could be something that is just absolutely sleeper, unexpectedly, unabashedly simple fun. At least for me and my kids. Maybe not you. But going on with that, we saw a reiteration now of another IP that we've seen numerous games for across the board. But what this gives me vibes of with the new Batman, the animated series game, is a combination of Spooktacular meets Batman, the animated series. Maybe with Dogs of War. I don't know. Pick your favorite area control game. Because Enemies of Gotham City now is giving us an asymmetric, this is where it gets tricky, from Upper Deck Entertainment. Okay, Upper Deck, give me the mechanical awesomeness. That's what I'm really looking for here. Of asymmetric bad guys that are taking over Gotham City districts, make the cash, thwart the bat, and be that most infamous. Okay, right? Get your powers, get your weapons, asymmetry, and this is, again, the tricky point, right? It's going to have an Arkham Asylum. Wait for it. Cube Tower. I have no idea. But if you can loop me up in any way, shape, or form akin to something like that, which is my type of craziness, you can see why I'm a little bit trepidatious. I'm a little bit excited about that too. And then the other one I saw Shut Up and Sit Down sort of allude to or mention as well is Bombastic. Bitewing, how come you didn't tell me about this? I got their other 2 that I'll be talking about on their crowdfunding campaign for September with their launch of Azure and Montoya. But Bombastic is... It's going to be way too light for people, right? It's tic-tac-toe 3 in a row, but where all your X's and O's are actually out on the board already and they're face down, and you just don't want to reveal the bomb. If you can make the other person reveal the bomb or get all 3 of yours face up, well, with some powers to manipulate, press your luck, as well as take that, it kind of is cool. And it's in their travel line, so it's a really small package. And I really, really like this. Peek, rearrange, stay one step ahead of the other person, rinse and repeat. So I added this one along with all of these other ones to my wish list because I think, again, it's just one of those... I'm going to pick up and play it. We're going to bring it with us. And I like the idea of this because if you're like me and you're ever bringing games to somewhere, invariably you have way too many all the time. And so sometimes it's just nice to have a couple of these small ones so my wife doesn't look at me cross-eyed like, saying, you know what, you really only need to breed like half of those, Chris, and you know we're only going to play one, so you should really only bring one. But now I can sneak in more because they're smaller sized. And when I originally filmed this, I was going to tell you about the upcoming Mindclash game entitled, codenamed Blaze, but now it's been revealed before I could get this video live, and it's called EMBERHEART. EMBERHEART, in the weight of more of an Ironwood from their retail side of things, as a worker placement on the lighter side of what Mindclash is known for. Pre-order's already up on their website with a free promo pack, and literally 8 paid preview videos all going live in the time that this was announced, right? Clearly embargoed. And the other interesting thing with this is I always find it funny because they can also do the same thing on Board Game Geek, because I searched for Mindclash's page and then spontaneously that also pops us up on the same day as that. So I think it's interesting that Board Game Geek allows people to embargo just as much as the companies do themselves to creators in that way. I mean, I think it's an interesting twist, but based off of preview videos and how to play video, is it going to suit your needs from a lighter style of Mindclash? Not necessarily light, because they still call it self-described medium weight Euro for 2 to 4 players. Either you're taking an aid, which gets you like an asymmetric bonus for that round, or then you're going out and placing your workers. But when you place them, how soon you place them in a round is all going to affect, you know, what you get to do at those locations. And the more you commit to a location, the earlier you get to choose from its limited rewards, and the less likely, apparently, the auction bidding mechanic is going to affect you, because then they can't outbid you there as well. Oh, okay. And you hire them, and you get recruiting unique heroes and rescuing dragons and train your own dragons. That's a whole video side tangent, but that is out there as well. And as the local board game level 99 shill, at least that's what I feel like at times, their latest one being tested online by people like you and me is called Saltiest Scratchers. It's like a scratch-off continuation game with like asymmetry and something, I don't really know, but they're playing it online and it seems really interesting. It's not going to be until 2026, and sometime between now and then I think we're going to have Wardens, so we'll kind of see what it has with that. And then Chronicles of Crime is coming back to us with a new set of cases beyond the doubt, or it's actually just beyond doubt, because I don't know why you'd throw a "the" in there, but that's ongoing too. So if you're a big fan of that series, I just could never grasp those, right? Like, I am a horrible guesser. I am a horrible leaps in deduction, even though I am super good at crosswords. I'm super good at Sudoku, but like the Chronicles of Crime navigation system, Lucky Duck, and the other ones, it bounces off of me. And so I played a couple with my wife cooperatively, and we both, oh man, it was not a good experience. It was a lesson in frustration that tested our marriage. I'll just put it that way. Anyway, though, Thebai, the next in the T line of things from Board and Dice has also been announced, even though the other one, the Tiangjia, I'm mispronouncing it again. I'm sorry. I'm horrible at this. Is not even really released yet either, but we've already got the next hype hotness on the cycle from them to entice you in another of the T lines, sort of almost becoming Queen Feldian-like, if you will. It's over a 3 weight rating. It's going to play at a bunch of people. Turksy is doing it, so you're getting the dark times in Thebes. Oedipus is now gone, and all of the other people whose names I can't pronounce are, well, trying to come back and rule the city. 10 rounds, action phase, fate phase, use a citizen die and move it around. In fate phase, you get scoring opportunities additionally. Meh. Okay, I'm intrigued. I do like some Greek mythology, and so this one, just from a thematic side of things, might just keep on my radar. And if it's a little lighter than the previous T series, I might give it a look-see at some point too. Another one from a company that's kind of all over the genres, mechanistic approaches, and interest. And this is the upcoming one from Cardboard Alchemy. I think it's actually going to be in 2026, but I could be wrong. Whisperwood. And I love bag building. 2 to 4 players, druids, harnessing the power of the elements to restore the forest. Each round simultaneously summoning magical energy and tokens to perform your incantations or spells. And doing all of the things that you do, including summoning/awakening guardian golems to perform magical tasks. But you've got to purify the corruption in order to, well, not have your magical abilities be compromised. So I think this looks really intriguing. I'd almost feel like I would like it more, though, if it was cooperative rather than competitive. The other thing that worries me with this one is, and again, this is probably wrong, but I just can't help avoid it when I see the Board Game Geek page. It says 2 to 3 hours, right? Can you imagine a Quacks game for 3 hours long? Just putting that out there. I don't think it's really like that, but it really begs the question, too much of a good thing? Well, we'll find out. We've also seen now a recent social media announcement from the folks behind Dice Throne saying that they're going to have their first straight-to-retail release, how do you feel about that, of the first single hero called The Alchemist. And it's going to be available to, it sounds like, select stores around the country, especially ones that do tournaments and kits along those lines. So we'll kind of see. I mean, I guess that's cool and all. Can you get it? Because a lot of the other promos lately that are not necessarily like this, but promo-esque or limited availability, at least initially, like the Lord of the Rings promos, right? For Fate of the Fellowship, or for the trick-taking game, or for Lord of the Rings Duel for Middle-earth. All of the promos for those are like next to never anywhere available. So what is the retail release for this going to look like? And then we also have another announcement from the good doctor in combination with Dutrait, and you may remember that combination in the form of the original Quest for El Dorado, but now I can't pronounce the German version of this because I would absolutely butcher this. This thing is incredibly long, but it's the roll and write version of the Quest for El Dorado. And so roll and explore your way through to grab some treasure. That's all I got. But it's intriguing. So that's why we're talking about it. Another one from Upper Deck. I don't know if the last time I talked about an Upper Deck game was, but 2 in a video. Even more unheard of. Because we're going back to Legendary. Now, you may not have really remembered that there was not only The Matrix, there was Aliens, there was also James Bond, which actually got at least 1, if not 2 expansions, I think. But now, about 15 years too late, we are jumping on the hotness that is Game of Thrones, right? Anytime before Season 8 would have been a better time for it. But, okay. Legendary Game of Thrones, the deck building game. Speaking of an IP that was sort of meant for expansion-heavy Legendary, we're getting the epic warfare of a deck builder in the form of Game of Thrones. No more details, except for the fact that the base game alone is going to have 550 cards. That's kind of freaking insane to me. That's a lot, which begs the question, how many houses are you going to be dealing with at once? How many factions? Which aren't going to be part of things? Is there going to be a PvPvE style of things? What is exactly going to go on? Because it also says that it's going to come with a deluxe playmat and player boards. That makes me also think that it's going to be something a little bit different as well than what we've seen previously. Rumor has it from Gen Con Board Game Geek discussion, maybe in the next month or 2, also maybe not soloable, which makes sense if you think about what Game of Thrones is in the first place. So that's kind of the question of what are we going to see? What are the dynamics? Kind of then begs the question, how do you balance this out? And I guess what people are saying from the few people that played it at Gen Con is that each individual person, I'm assuming, is going to be in some way, shape, or form representing the house, because you each have your own individual Legendary, quote-unquote, mastermind. And so you each have your own deck buying from this common market. So is that going to work? And is it going to be like a Dice Throne where you can kind of do that? But ultimately, Dice Throne at its core is really symbolically as well as best unapologetically at 2 rather than multiple because of that. Or are you going to have some alliance or, dogs of war, like we were just saying, shifting balance in that way in order to, well, sort of levy that out more evenly. And I guess now they're actually saying maybe there's 3 masterminds per house that you have to defeat before just defeating 1 as you stock up your defenders, buy from a common market, and manipulate your own personal deck. I have no idea. I think the concept of doing something different with the core of Legendary is really intriguing because it's kind of just hasn't fully adapted to the times, apart from just the keyword smorgasbord, I feel like, with a lot of the other versions. And so I'm really intrigued to see if this is the thing that gets me back into this style. And I did add it tentatively my wish list at this point, so we'll see where it goes. Then another expansion that I'm really interested in, I covered the Spanish edition of Sea Dragons before the English edition was made on their crowdfunding campaign. A very nice twist on the light area control style with patterns. And now Sea Dragons is coming back with Treasures of the Deep, giving you, well, dragon elders and obviously treasure. But it's giving us a whole new sideboard in the form of that rewards, where you advance depending on the number of boats you actually sink, which gives you new ways to score cards and improve on your individual turns. But the more asymmetric, hopefully, portion of things is to said Elder Dragon, which gives you a different presence on the board altogether, although details are unclear exactly of what it's going to do. So that's it. That is your news. Again, like I said, mostly new announcements, but a little bit of everything across the board as well. So that's what we got going on. And September, I'll leave it at this at the end, right? September on crowdfunding is potentially one of the biggest months top to bottom, not because I'm necessarily going to raise the most funds, but the most well-known names across the board. A lot of retreads, a lot of things you know and love, and a lot of big question marks that could be potentially affecting your wallet's bottom line. Spoilers, you want to know more? Subscribe and you'll know when my video goes live, or support me on Patreon. That'd be super awesome too. Peace out, stay classy, have a great freaking fantastic day. I just love talking about board games. Meh.